All right, it is go time. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Making Your Portfolio Shine, how to submit a stellar portfolio for your CCS application process. So I'm going to wait a second for a few folks to join the live here, and then we're going to get started. I see some folks are already joining. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to give you all some tips and some tricks, some advice to make sure you're putting your best foot forward for submitting your portfolio to CCS. I know there are a lot of things that come with the application process, so I want to make this as easy and as simple as possible. So to start off, what we're going to do is go over a few just general things to know and keep in mind for your portfolio. And then from there, I'm going to be answering your questions live about how to submit your best possible portfolio to CCS. So if you know you already have questions about the portfolio process, make sure you click that little question box at the bottom. There's a little square with a question mark in it. Click that box and add your questions, because I will be answering live questions at the end of my tiny little presentation about putting your portfolio together. So make sure to put your questions in the box, and we are going to go ahead and get started. So first, I want to quickly talk about what a portfolio is. I know a lot of folks are like, okay, but what is a portfolio? It's simply 8 to 12 pieces of your strongest work, and it's a collection of work that you've most recently created. So mostly the last 2 years. If you're in high school, you're a senior, we don't really want to see work that you did in like 8th grade and freshman year, right? We want to see your most recent work, and we're looking at a combination of who you are as an artist and designer, so your creativity, your imagination, your concepts, your passion, and we also want to see your technical skill. So these are the basic elements of drawing or design that you may have learned in your classroom setting, maybe an art class or a design class in high school. So we're looking for the combination of the two. It's not good enough to just have really strong skills but no ideas or originality. And it's great to have an amazing imagination, but we want to make sure you have a little bit of foundational skills too, right? So we're looking for those two things. One other thing that's an important part of a portfolio that students don't always think about is the descriptions and titles of your pieces. Depending on how you submit your portfolio, there is the ability to describe the work, and this is a great way to share your concepts and your thinking with the people reviewing your portfolio. So you want to make sure you think a little bit, nothing like 2 paragraphs or anything, a few sentences that describes each of the pieces in your portfolio. So what should you submit? Firstly, you want to submit, like I mentioned, we want to see your skill and your creativity. We want to see your passion and your know-how. So we want to see both classwork and personal work. It's great to see assignments from class, but it's also great to see things you're working on when no one's telling you what to create, right? For CCS's portfolio, your subject matter can be anything. Your medium or size of your pieces can be anything. So really don't feel constrained in your portfolio. We don't have a specific theme that we require in your portfolio. One thing we always say is that we definitely want to see strength over variety of medium. Meaning if you've done watercolor and oil and sculpture and photography, and your photography is the weakest, don't put it in your portfolio just to show us that you've tried it and dabbled in it if it's really, really not strong, right? We want to see what you're best at, because we use the portfolio not only to make an admissions decision, but simultaneously to make a scholarship decision. So you want to make sure you're putting your strongest work, showing your best skills in your portfolio. That being said, it doesn't mean that your work has to be perfectly finished and polished, right? You can show your strength in sketchbooks, right? So I know some students are like, I have a few finished pieces, but I have some sketches I'm really proud of. That can be in your portfolio. We've had students submit their sketchbook by taking a small video and paging through their sketchbook and uploading that. We've had students, scan in or take pictures of the pages or spreads that they think are best and upload that as one piece of their portfolio. So think of your sketchbook as a piece in and of itself, and that's something that's great to submit if you have strong sketchbooks. For the most part, your portfolio does not have to match the major that you're applying to. So for example, if you're applying to metalsmithing and jewelry making, you don't have to have a portfolio full of jewelry if you haven't done that yet. But there are 4 majors that do require drawing in the portfolio. That's the illustration program, our animation program in entertainment arts, our game design program in entertainment arts, and our transportation design program. Those 4 majors, we must see at least 5 drawings in your portfolio. Those drawings, however, can be any subject matter. They can be observational, they can be, imaginative. We just want to see your drawing skills. So can you draw what you see in front of you? Do you have a grasp on perspective or proportions? Those are the types of things we want to see with those 5 drawings. But again, your portfolio is 8 to 12 pieces. So if 5 of those are drawings, you can feel free to submit other pieces if you feel that they best show your strengths and your skill set. So those are the general portfolio requirements. There is one major, however, that has its own specialized requirements, and that's our entertainment arts concept design major. Because this is a competitive or highly competitive program, the only one at CCS that has a select number of slots that we admit each year, the portfolio requirement is very specialized. So concept design is essentially visualizing stories for film development, right? So for the portfolio, we're looking for students to showcase their ability to visualize a story in 4 main areas. So we want to see how you create characters for a story, how you create hardware, which is like vehicles, tools, weapons, things like that. We want to see architecture, so building architecture, and environments, so that could be natural environments, etc. We need to see all 4 of these categories in your portfolio, and we want to see you develop the process from beginning to end for each of those categories. Meaning, we want to see you start off with your research and your mood board, your inspiration, move on to your studies, right? Your silhouettes or your figure studies, your color studies, how you're problem solving to get the right idea for your designs, and then moving on to final renderings. So we want to see that full process, and that portfolio specifically needs to be uploaded to Slideroom in a PDF file. So you want to create that in a presentation style PDF landscape format and upload that digitally for that to be reviewed. So that's the only portfolio where the content of the portfolio needs to match the major that you're applying for, right? So how do you submit your portfolio? It's pretty simple. There are several different ways that you can submit your portfolio. I want to talk about 2 key differences. There is an informal portfolio review and submitting your final portfolio review. Anybody can get an informal portfolio review. You can be a freshman in high school and get an informal portfolio review. And that's simply having an admissions counselor like me, and there's several amazing admissions counselors on our team, review your work. And this can be done in person, this can be done virtually through Zoom, it can be done through text, email, any way that you want to have your work reviewed. We can review your work and then give you feedback on ways to grow. So that's the first way of getting feedback on your portfolio. But the final portfolio submission, you can use all of those methods, but it's your stamp saying this is done. I'm ready to submit this for an admissions decision. And so I want to talk through each of the ways you can submit it. First is Slideroom. This is the most common way folks submit their portfolio. You simply would go to ccs.slideroom.com, create an account. There is a $10 fee that we don't charge. Slideroom charges for you to upload your work, but you'll be able to upload your 8 to 12 pieces of work, and they take any type of format. You can upload JPEGs, PDFs, Photoshop files, 3D files. I've had students submit music. If you're making videos, you can add YouTube links and submit videos. So you can submit any type of format. The second way that students can do this is through a virtual review with their admissions counselor. So you would simply reach out to your admissions counselor, schedule a video conference like a Zoom call or a FaceTime call. Some students hold up their work, like physical pieces of their work, or if they have 3D work, they show their work on camera. Or if you are fancy, you can have your PDF or PowerPoint of all your pieces put together beforehand, and you and your counselor can just page through and review your work that way. Social media obviously is one of the easiest ways because you're already there, right? You can DM your admissions counselor your work. So you want to make sure you reach out to your admissions counselor, make sure you know their Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat, but you can go in their DMs and send them the work that you are considering submitting for your final portfolio and receive a review that way. And if it's admissible, it can be used. Email obviously is pretty simple to send your work via email. We typically recommend that students who are submitting their portfolio via email put it together in a Google Drive folder. That way we can continue to review the work in the future if we need to go back for any additional consideration for anything. Or if you have a website. I know some students have already developed their own portfolio website. We're not requiring that from students at all, but if you already have that, you can just send that link via email or text. Same with text, you can send a Google Drive folder via text. And then when we're back in person, because I miss seeing people in person, I love meeting with people and reviewing their work and touching the papers and sketchbooks. When we're back in person, you could always do an in-person review. And this can be at a portfolio day. This can be in person on our campus or at your school. And your admissions counselor typically will let you know if your portfolio is ready to go. So, like I mentioned, you can do an informal review before submitting your final portfolio. And the beauty of that is if you are applying, if we look at your informal portfolio review and say, hey, this is admissible, you're ready to go, there's no extra step that you need to go through, right? So if you send your work, say you DM me here on Instagram and you send some portfolio work and I say, oh, this is perfect, this is admissible, there's nothing else you have to do. Your portfolio is done. We'll go and add the notes to your record, and then you'll see your portfolio is marked as complete on your application. So it's pretty easy. We want to make this process as simple for you, because the main point is that we just want to look at your work, right? It's better to share your work early and have a conversation about it than be afraid and nervous and, rack your brain and rework pieces by yourself and then wait to the last minute. So please send your work, send it early, get feedback, send it any way that works easiest for you. And lastly, before we move on to the Q&A, I'm going to talk about some things to avoid, some things to leave out of your portfolio. The biggest faux pas that I see in portfolios across the board is students doing fan art. I understand that we love anime. I am an anime nerd. Me and my husband as adults still watch it, right? I have several students who we all love Disney, right? And Steven Universe, Adventure Time, etc. But we want to make sure that you are putting your own style of characters, of creativity in your portfolio. Remember what I said earlier, creativity is half of what we're looking for in your portfolio. So if you're using another person's style or characters, that doesn't help, right? So don't put Spider-Man in your portfolio. Make up your own hero and put them in your portfolio. So no fan art. Second thing is to avoid online photo reference when possible. Especially if you're trying to show your observational drawing skills, it's much stronger for you to go and, do live observation of a family member or a friend and draw them and put that in your portfolio than, look at a picture of Ariana Grande and draw her, or Billie Eilish or somebody, don't draw celebrities offline, right? That's a huge no-no. We want to see what you have access to. And then moreover, if there are things that you do have access to, say you want to do a full imagined landscape, but you're thinking about getting photo reference for a cityscape, try and go shoot a cityscape that you actually have access to and augment that, right? Now, clearly, we don't have access to everything that we may want to draw, right? You may want to draw Mars, or you may want to draw a mountainscape and not live somewhere near mountains. Clearly, it's okay to get photo reference for those types of things. But for the most part, try and get your own photo reference. That actually stands out a lot for us when we're looking at portfolios. Another huge no-no is drawing on lined paper. We do not want to see work on lined paper. We are in high school or in college transferring, right? So we're not sketching in notebooks, we're sketching in sketchbooks or on blank pieces of paper. That being said, just because you have a beautiful white piece of paper doesn't mean that you have to put the subject matter of your pieces dead smack in the center of it, right? We don't want to see floating drawings, is what I call them, where you have something just floating in a sea of whiteness. Think about your full composition, the full piece that you're putting in your portfolio, because that shows us that you're thinking, about the complete composition, and that's something that we do look for in portfolios. So, fill up the piece, make it work for you. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we don't want you to submit only classwork. I do want to see what you're working on when no one's telling you what to create, right? We want to see your passion projects, the things that motivate you. You have something that no one else in the world has, and that's your experiences, your beliefs, the things you love, the things you hate, that unique combination that makes you you. Inject that in your portfolio. I know sometimes it's hard when we have students coming from the same high school who are submitting only art assignments from those high schools. Their portfolios can start to look the same, right? Maybe there's different skills or different subject, but the assignment is the same, and so things start to look monotonous, and that makes your creativity points go down. So we want to make sure you're combining what you're doing in your high school art classes or in your college art classes with what you're doing on your own. And hopefully if you're passionate and creative, you're doing stuff on your own too, right? So yeah, those are things to avoid. When it comes to photography, you want to make sure you're also thinking uniquely about your photographs. So if you're shooting things that everyone has access to, right, like sunsets and sunrises, your portfolio is not going to look as unique as something that no one has access to, like the people in your life or a scene that you set up yourself. So you want to think about, yes, what shows I am a strong artist and designer, or photographer, videographer, but also what shows who I am? What can I put in my portfolio that demonstrates that I am a unique and creative thinker and person? So those are the tips that I have for submitting your portfolio. I'm going to go to the Q&A box now and see what questions you all have. So again, if you have questions and they haven't been addressed by my little presentation here, make sure you're clicking that box with the little question mark on it so I can get your questions answered. Oh, I see you all have already been on it. Woohoo! All right, so we are going to start with this question. So someone asks, what if your drawing skill isn't the strongest? So if your drawing skill isn't the strongest and you're interested in applying to a drawing-based major, say you want to go into illustration or transportation design, but your drawing skill isn't your strength, I suggest working on strengthening your drawing skills through a few different avenues. One is obviously working with your high school teacher, right? Asking them ways that you can improve your drawing skills, right? You, in the same way that if you're struggling with a math class and you want to get stronger, you may find tutoring. You can do the same with your drawing, right? But say you don't have access to that in your high school. CCS has a ton of opportunities for students to strengthen their drawing skills through like dual enrollment classes, which are especially helpful if you are like a junior, right? Starting junior year, you want to do some dual enrollment, or even, you know, going into senior year, want to do some dual enrollment where you can take a drawing one class at a college level and really hit the ground running with those skills. And the best thing about that is that you can also get credit. If you're not in our state, right, and you want to do those things, we have pre-college summer experience classes. This summer, they're going to be online. So we do have online classes that you can take to strengthen your drawing skill. But, you know, when we're back in person, you can always come and stay in our dorms during the summer and strengthen your drawing skill through a drawing intensive over the summer. Also, many community colleges have beginning drawing 1 and 2 classes that students can take through dual enrollment, excuse me, or on their own to strengthen their drawing skills. So, excuse me. I've met with some students, you know, in sophomore year who are passionate about a specific path and, you know, advise them to enroll dual enrollment in a community college class to get those basic drawing skills, and that really helps them to strengthen their portfolio. So there are a lot of different ways to do that, but moreover, I would say still do an informal portfolio review first, because I know some students may be hesitant about their drawing skills, and we may review it and say, oh, you know, you're good for the most part. Maybe proportion is what you need to focus on, or perspective is what you need to focus on. And instead of going and taking a whole class, we can give you some tips on what specifically to focus on for your drawing skills. So I hope that answered your question. The next question we have is it better to show a specific focus or passion in your portfolio or show a variety? That's a great question. It really depends on what your strength is, right? What your technical strengths are. So we've had students who show a specific focus, but you know, explore that with a lot of different mediums, all the mediums that they're very strong at. We like that, right? Seeing not only breadth but depth in a portfolio can really help your portfolio to stand out. And if you have a particular passion, say for example, you were passionate about women's rights, right? And you did a portfolio with a lot of different pieces, you know, unique pieces that speak to that theme, that does stand out. That does really help to elevate a portfolio. Because once we see that a student has strong technical skills and we see that they have, you know, strong creativity, the next thing that we're looking at is, are they pushing their creative thinking and medium forward, right? So are they taking the skills that they have and using it to really make a statement as an artist and designer? So having a specific focus or passion in your portfolio can help to do that. That being said, you don't lose points for variety, right? If you have a portfolio that spans a lot of different topics, that's fine too, right? We're artists and designers. Some of us are multi-passionate, so that's okay as well. Alrighty, next question. You guys are asking some really good questions, I see. Oh, So this is a great question. So Rubber Ladybug asks, what if we want to submit a sketchbook, flip through it, and there just happens to be fan art in it? That's fine, right? If the overwhelming majority of the work in your portfolio is unique and is your own, and then you happen to have like a page or two of fan art, we're not going to be like, oh my God, there's fan art, right? That's not going to happen. So that's okay. It's just we don't want to see, you know, the overwhelming majority of your portfolio taken up by someone else's concepts or intellectual property. But yeah, I've seen a few Gokus in there, you know, a few characters in there as you're paging through a sketchbook. That's okay. Hopefully, though, the majority of your work in your portfolio is your original stuff, because hopefully one day somebody's going to be drawing your fan art. So you got to get started on that style now, right? Alrighty. Let's see. Should we include gesture drawings? That's a great question. I would say if you are applying to a drawing-based major and your gesture drawings show technical skill and strength for anatomy, definitely. I would say one thing that's helpful to think about is process for drawing. So if you, for example, had a final piece that start with some gesture studies, that's fine. I would think of gestures in the same way that I would think of a sketchbook, right? So if you're going to show a series of this is how I've worked in 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 15-minute intervals, making that a piece versus like putting those all together as a piece versus taking up one full piece of your portfolio with, you know, one gesture drawing, right? That's not going to necessarily put you in the best light, but showing that you've, you know, done some anatomy studies and that you're growing those skills, that can be helpful. Thanks for that question, Alex. Alrighty. Next question. Oh, I don't believe my art is the best, and it's mostly because of my lack of creativity. Any tips? Yes. So I always say that creativity can come from places that we least expect, right? So instead of trying to think outside the box, I tell people to get in a box that they want to burst out of, right? So a way that you can do that is think about things that get you really emotionally stirred up. Maybe think about a social cause that you're really, really, really passionate about and you want to see a difference in the world with, right? Think about that and think about how you can creatively get people to think about that cause or care about that cause, right? Or, you know, think about something that gets you really, really, really angry and use that energy to draw or photograph or sculpt that thing that you're very, very angry at, right? Take yourself, I know this is contradictory to what everyone ever says, right? They always say, think outside the box. Take yourself and put yourself in the smallest possible box and try to burst out of that box using the mediums that you have access to and the skills that you have. I promise that will lead to some creative things, right? Also, another thing that can help, and this is actually a tip from Indu, who was watching the live here. Indu BC is one of our alum, and he gave an amazing tip on one of our most recent alumni lives, which was think of other types of art that inspires you, right? So if you're inspired by dance, if you're inspired by music, if you're inspired by, I don't know, lawn care, anything that's not like visual art, go and reference that, right? Not lawn care, that's a random one, but you know, go and reference that and pull creative inspiration from the things that you're passionate about outside of art and use that to inspire you to create. But again, if you want to know, because I know believe it or not, there are students who think they aren't creative and I see their work and my brain explodes. Make sure you do an informal review first, get some feedback on your work to let you know really how close or far you are from having a creative portfolio, because you may be surprised. But hopefully those tips were helpful. And then someone just said, but that's why I want to go to art school. Yes, we teach you a ton of ways of being creative. We teach you a lot of the foundations, right? We start off in your major at CCS in freshman year, but we also have foundation classes, right? We have drawing 1 and 2 and 2D and 3D design. So yes, art school will help you to unlock and unleash your creativity. We just want to see where you're starting with, right? We want to see what you have now. So it's not that, you know, if you currently are not a creative genius, you can't get into CCS, right? We are all about taking potential and helping that to grow. So it's just starting the conversation. We want to see where you are currently with your creativity, but hopefully those tips help. Alrighty, so the next question that we have is, I want to go into animation but do not have any experience Are there any tools to help or tips? Well, when it comes to portfolio, like I mentioned earlier, your portfolio does not have to be specific to the major you're interested in. So if you're interested in going into animation, but you only have life drawing, right? Life drawing and collage, for example, that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to go and make an animated film. But if you want to experience animation before applying to CCS or before coming into CCS, we have an amazing pre-college summer experience that allows students to, for 3 weeks during the summer, take class. And this summer, again, is online. So it's not the typical experience. But any summer of high school, you can do our pre-college summer experience program, and that allows you to take a deep dive into an area that you're specifically interested in, and that will be a great way of exploring, animation. But there's also, I'm not here to sell CCS. I'm trying to help you with your portfolio. There's a ton of awesome resources online too to help you develop some of those beginning skills with a particular area of focus. So there are tons of people on YouTube who are giving tips for, doing hand-drawn flip books, which is a great beginning form of animation, right? Or doing a walk sequence for a character. So, there are a lot of resources out there. CCS has some great ones if you're interested, but go and explore and find some of those. But again, you do not need to have animation in your portfolio if you want to apply to the animation program at CCS. All right. Someone asked, can you get a scholarship to the pre-college programs? So yes, we do have scholarships for our pre-college programs in our normal season. So, post-COVID, the application deadline for scholarships for our pre-college program, and this is for any major, not just animation, for all the majors that we have at our pre-college program, the deadline is in March. So you're going to want to apply for those scholarships by March. If you're interested in attending the pre-college summer program. So for example, if you're a junior now and you want to do it next summer, or if you're a sophomore now and you want to do it next summer, when you apply for the pre-college program, you want to complete the process by March in order to be considered for those scholarships. And we also have some competitive scholarships for the pre-college program specific to fashion accessories design, footwear design, and transportation design. And the information about those is on our website under the academics tab for our pre-college and continuing studies section. Alrighty. Someone asked, can they include animation in your portfolio? Heck yes. If you have access to it, if you have the skills, you can, like I mentioned earlier, you can submit all kinds of mediums. So if you have, video work, upload it to YouTube and send us the YouTube link, right? You can upload that to Slideroom or send it to your admissions counselor. We love seeing motion-based work, right? If you are doing animated pieces in your portfolio, we look at things like, sequencing, we look at how you're pacing things in your piece, creativity, all the same things that we look at for static pieces. We're looking at that plus time for your moving pieces. So if you're doing video or animation, please put that in your portfolio, especially if you feel that that's your strength. Okay? These are amazing questions, you guys. Hopefully this is helpful. So someone asked, how do we find out who our admissions officer is? Great question, Jade Ivy. So you would simply email admissions@collegeforcreativestudies.edu and say, hey, I want to connect with an admissions counselor. Who is it? We assign admissions counselors by high school or by state. So depending on where you go to high school or where you live, you may be assigned a different admissions counselor. So the easiest way is to email admissions. You can also, if you aren't already on our mailing list, so if you aren't already getting emails or, really colorful books sent to your house from CCS, if you go on our website and click the request info tab, you can actually request information, which will put you in our system so you can get, mail and updates about the application process for CCS, but then you're automatically assigned to an admissions counselor who will reach out to you when it comes time to start the application process. So we'll make sure that we reach out to you and you don't have to do all the heavy legwork. So that is how you find out who your admissions counselor is. And we have an all-star team of admissions counselors. Just saying. So Josh asks, is it okay if most of my original work is in pencil? That's okay. Though, depending on what grade you're in, Josh, I would say to start to explore other mediums, right? Because if you're working primarily in pencil, and it's only graphite pencil, for example, we may want to see some things in color, right? You may want to see how you're experimenting and growing your strengths in other areas. So when we see a portfolio that's all, graphite on white paper, unless it's like crazy, detailed, photorealistic, and has a deep concept, that can start to get monotonous, right? And so we definitely want to encourage you to explore other mediums. But yeah, if we've seen portfolios that have been all painting, all ink, all photography, and that's fine if that's really, really, really what your strength is. Alrighty. So someone asked, is there a specific process we have to go through for an informal review? No, there is not a specific process at all. So like I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in getting a informal review, there are several different ways that you can do that. So you can, except for SlideRoom, because SlideRoom is our SlideRoom, ccs.slideroom.com is the final portfolio submission. So don't upload to SlideRoom for an informal review. But ACAD, the Association of Independent Colleges of Art and Design, they have a SlideRoom where you can upload your work to get an informal review. You can, again, email admissions, see who your admissions counselor is, and directly reach out to them saying you want an informal review, and they'll help you to coordinate in the way that's easiest for you, whether that's social media, text, or email. Okay. Let's see, what other amazing questions do you all have? Because there's so many good questions. Alrighty. So someone says, most people say my work looks the same, but it's my unique style. Would that affect me in a bad way? I'm going for animation. So I'm not sure what you mean by the same, like it looks the same as other artists' style. So for example, I've had some students where they say it's my unique style, it's mine, and it looks like anime, right? If that's the case, I would encourage you to do some explorations with diversifying the style that you're working with. So for example, yes, keep your style, don't change that, but draw the same character and maybe 4 different character styles, right? Or another way that I tell students to do this is take something that's distinctly unique about your style, and if it is similar to Steven Universe or anime or something like that, change one element to be very exaggerated, right? So make the eyes completely different, or make the limbs completely different, make the body proportions completely different, and that can start to help to make your style even more unique, right? It can make it vastly different from what you may be looking at as inspiration. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, make sure to ask another in the box, but wanted to make sure to address that question. Oh, this is a really good question. So can I include collaborative work? I am friends with a guy who writes music and am animating it. Of course. So the thing that we do want to say is that if you are working on collaborative pieces, we want to understand what your role in the collaboration is. So for example, several film students may submit a video in a portfolio, but they only did the editing and shooting, but not the writing, right? Or they may have done the writing and directing, but not the shooting. You want to make sure you are listing who did what, because that gives us an idea of what skills you had to use to produce the piece. But if it's something like you're making, an animated piece and you're doing everything except for the music, someone else did the music, you can credit them, but it's not gonna filter the way that we're looking at the piece at all, right? A lot of students don't even have access to musicians, so they're using stock music or whatever. So, but yes, if you are doing a collaborative piece, we definitely want to see credit given to who did what in the piece. Same for, we know there are students who do performance-based art too. If you're doing performance-based work and it's something that includes a lot of people, or mural work, that's another great example that I see in portfolios. I had someone just recently whose portfolio was admissible. They put a mural in their portfolio, but the only part of the mural that they did was the typography. And not the main drawing part, but the typography was beautiful, so that was helpful to see and know that was their contribution. So yes, you can include collaborative work as long as you give credit. Alrighty, I think we have a couple more questions. So someone said key points to consider to achieve a high scholarship with the portfolio. So one thing that's the biggest key to keep in mind with the admissions process for CCS is that we look at portfolio and grades equally. So that being said, if you have the world's most immaculate and perfect portfolio, but you have a 1.999, it won't matter, right? That one, you won't get in if you have 1.999. So you have a 2.5. That's going to change your scholarship, right? Or there's somebody with a 4.0 who has, a very beginning level portfolio. That's going to change your scholarship. So that's something helpful to know, right? That we look at both. So you want to academically achieve and artistically, push yourself. But when it comes to the portfolio, like I mentioned earlier, we are looking at, once we get beyond seeing the initial creativity of a student and seeing the basic technical skills, we're looking to see how students are pushing the medium or concepts forward. So are they really thinking deeply and critically, right? Are they using, influence from art history to shape what they're doing in their work? Are they taking a medium and using it in a way that we've never seen before? Do they have a unique style for design or typography that they're, making and curating their own? When we see that a student is really growing their own voice in their portfolio, so that's beyond just showing you're creative, but really saying, I'm creative and this is who I am, that above and beyond helps to strengthen the level that we assess for scholarship for students. And again, technical skill. So, if you feel that you want to go into photography and you've only picked up a camera a couple times, take a pre-college class, take a community college class, do some online tutorials on your own and really strengthen those technical skills. Because again, that'll help to strengthen your work, which will strengthen the amount of scholarship you're eligible for. One thing I want to mention is that we automatically consider all of our applicants for scholarship, and about 98% of our students receive some form of scholarship or financial aid, right? So it's very rare that a student is not receiving some type of assistance to attend CCS. Still, though, we want you to get the highest amount possible, which is why we're giving these tips here. Someone added some context for a question they asked earlier because they are potentially a transfer student. They said they have some paintings from high school art class and they want to add more recent work, but they only have black and white drawings recently. If that's the case, one thing to know is that we are looking at the current portfolio, the current skills, because we want to make sure that we are putting you into the correct classes in your curriculum that you can survive drawing, right? So I don't know what your scenario is, but I know for me, I did drawing in high school. I was great at drawing in high school, but then I went to school for design and I haven't drawn in a long time. So if I were to use my drawing skills now as a part of the portfolio for CCS, it would be a false representation of my current drawing skills, right? Because it's been so long. And so we don't want to, use that, say you've got an AP credit or college credit for drawing, and that's not your skill set, or painting, for example, it's not your current skill set, that may throw things off, even if it's a stronger piece. So we want to make sure you're showing your most recent work. But again, Josh, I would say a good thing to do is get an informal review, and we can give you some feedback on what you're submitting and see if it's helpful to, create some more pieces or work with what you already have. Let's see. And then someone asked, is there a place at CCS for graphic design or advertising design? We actually have two separate majors. We have an advertising design major and we have a graphic design major, which is called communications design. And so there is a place for that at CCS, most certainly. All right, I'm going to answer the very last portfolio question in our Q&A box today. And the question is, how diverse would you make your portfolio? That's a very direct question. So me, I would make my portfolio diverse as my strengths. So like I mentioned earlier, we all have different things that we experiment with. I know in high school, I did photography, I did 2D, I did drawing, I did computer graphics, I took a fashion class and sewed a skirt. And that skirt was horrible. I would not put that in there to show diversity in my portfolio, right? So I would say make your portfolio as diverse as your strongest skill sets. And again, if you're confused about what your strength is, you're like, I feel like it's all good, or I don't feel like any of it's good. Hopefully you don't feel like the latter, but if you do, you're not alone. It's probably not true, right? You probably have some strengths. Get an informal review. And in informal reviews, you can show more than 8 to 12 pieces, right? And your final portfolio is very curated, right? In an informal review, you can show a lot of things, and we can actually help you to pull out what your strengths are and do that. So if you have additional questions that I did not answer in the live today, I want to make sure they get answered. So again, you can email us at admissions@collegeforcreativestudies.edu. So admissions at our website. to get connected to your admissions counselor. Again, I'm here on Instagram. This is my channel. So feel free to DM me if you have questions, and I'll do my best to not only answer them, but also get you connected to your admissions counselor as well, okay? So hopefully this IG Live was helpful for getting your portfolio on the right track. I know that your portfolio is going to shine, and I want you to know that your creativity matters in the world. No one else has who you are in their portfolio. So make sure to put that out there because we want to see it. Don't be afraid. Show us your work, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Have a great day. Thanks so much for joining in, guys.